But does President Trump deserve a second term? Those arguing against that include former U.S. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro, who brought his campaign to New Hampshire less than a week after announcing his candidacy. Castro is one of 4 potential candidates with experience in past presidential administrations, but he's still considered a long shot, and he says New Hampshire will help him stand out.
It's a state that I'm going to compete in. I think I can resonate well with the voters here, connect with them, and I want to do the hard work that it takes to win this primary.
And certainly you did a lot of work on behalf of the candidates running for state and local office here in New Hampshire. You're not shying away from inheriting that mantle as sort of the underdog presidential candidate. But how does an underdog find a path to the White House in this current environment where it feels like you need a big platform or sort of a going big to take on President Trump?
Well, you know, I think that that people are actually looking for somebody that they can relate to as maybe not the front runner. And the other day I announced in the neighborhood that I grew up in San Antonio on the west side, and I said that, you know, people could look around that neighborhood and could see that there weren't a lot of front runners, or nobody was a front runner that was born or growing up there, including me. And I can't think of a single time in my life when somebody would say, hey, you're the front runner. The thing about folks here in New Hampshire and people across the country, especially these days, is I think there are a lot of people who don't feel like the front runner. And I'm going to go and talk to them, and I'm going to show them how, if I'm elected president, I will make sure that I work hard so that they can get a good job, so that they can have good health care when they're sick, so that their children can get a good education, and that they are able to reach their American dream.
Certainly being the front runner might not mean much if there are, 3 dozen candidates in the race. Are you preparing strategically for a Democratic primary with 24 to 30 candidates?
I don't think that there'll be that many people in it. One of the things that I've seen very clearly just since I announced an exploratory committee on December 12th is how many moving parts there are to this whole process. I think ultimately that you're probably going to have between 15 and 18 candidates. That's still a lot. That's about the number that ran in the Democratic primary in 1976, in the Republican primary in 2016. It presents some challenges to the Democratic National Committee. It also, of course, means that the people here in New Hampshire who take their politics very seriously and try and get to know candidates are going to have a lot of people coming through here and a lot of work to do. But I think that all of us are going to be better for it. It's going to sharpen up the candidates. It's going to mean that the nominee is able to be even stronger and better and sharper in the fall of 2020 against President Trump.
While Castro has already announced he's running, there are other potential candidates with experience in prior administrations. Charisse Leclerc looks at some of those familiar faces who could have a big effect on the primary.
Former Vice President and U.S. Senator Joe Biden is no stranger to the Granite State. Presidential campaigns in the '88 and '08 cycles sputtered out, but he became the go-to guy for New Hampshire during the Obama administration, visiting the state repeatedly.
Old-hand at this.
Yeah, I am an old hand at this, I tell you what. This time I got the right guy. Last time it was me.
This time, Biden is one of the biggest question marks as the early race takes shape. He was last in New Hampshire for a state Democratic Party dinner in 2017, tamping down speculation by saying he's not running. Close friends here believe he'd make a great president, but say he hasn't revealed anything about his future plans.
If we ever stop thinking big, which we have of late, we're going to lose the soul of this nation.
Former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder could also join the fray, but his last visit to New Hampshire came 8 months ago in June 2018. Democrats who met him were encouraged to see more than just the straight-laced lawyer they knew as AG.
Maybe you know that we come out for Politics and Eggs to kind of check out people for another reason. And I know there's no...
No, I was not aware of that. What is this?
There's
really?
No decision on that. I'm aware of that.
You want to hear my views on the NBA Finals, I guess.
Yeah.
And there is still speculation about another political heavyweight entering the race. Despite former Secretary of State and 2004 Democratic presidential nominee John Kerry's comments, some think he hasn't completely closed the door on the idea.